Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today for our monthly forum. This is the second forum for this year. I don't know if you were here last time or not, but anyway, this is the second one. Again, a point of note, I would like to remind you, this forum is for you to exchange information with us and ask questions, issues that come in that you want to talk about, compare notes with your friends. Either, just you can put note questions or comments in the chat, but probably it would be better if you can participate by turning on your microphone when you need to, you would like to talk to us. So that would give us good chance to interact. With that introduction, as usual, we would have some quick updates from our office, and then we'll go from there. So from the proposal side, Kelly Gilmore, Associate Director, could you please go first?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I have just a few updates for you this morning, and I'm here to take any questions you may have for me as well. As for my updates, I think we've been pretty clear over the last several years that Proposals is really committed to finding efficiencies within the process. And recently we've noticed a couple of trends that are slowing the process down a little bit. The first one is that we've seen several instances where only a PI has been listed on an IPF in Cayuse, yet there are other key personnel that are on the project, such as co-PIs and investigators. Please be sure to list all key personnel on the IPF, even if you're not charging for effort. The reason for that is that we need to make sure that there's proper approvals and certifications in Cayuse, meaning those personnel understand their responsibilities relative to that project before we can approve the proposal. So it's really important that those approvals and certifications occur on the original routing process. That helps us prevent having to return the IPF for those approvals. The second thing that we have noticed is that when you're submitting a request to Proposals for review, but there's no actual solicitation document, please add a note to the IPF in the Notes tab explaining what you need from Proposals. A lot of times it's just a simple approval letter or email or a signature on some sort of form that's needed. But if that's not apparent, we're not quite sure what is being sought from us, so we're having to reach back out to get that information, which delays things a little bit. So having that information when the IPF arrives in the sponsored programs office really helps us to expedite the review, excuse me, and approval process of that request. And then last but not least, please remember that our standard hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We don't work on weekends. We don't submit proposals after 5 o'clock. So please keep that in mind if you have a deadline that might not be until 9 p.m. or even 11:59 p.m. We're not in the office to submit at those hours. So please plan for 5 p.m. on all proposal submissions. That is it for me for this forum. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Grace. On the issue of end of the day and so on and so forth, yeah, that we really need your help to recognize the fact that technically for our analysts, the workday ends at 5 p.m. And again, all of us have lots of other things that we are doing. Most of us work really late. And some of us work over the weekend, but we are not really, and we shouldn't put that pressure on our analysts who are working on proposals and these heavy deadlines that we work with. So we need your help not to expect our analysts to work after 5 p.m. It's not fair to anybody. Our direction to our analysts is that, again, they have to provide service. Obviously, they are here to provide service, and we would do that. But we have to draw the line somehow. And 5 p.m. is one of them. We keep asking for enough time for review. And as we know, rarely we get enough time for review. And there is a lot of rush at the end of the day. I know that that affects the work in the departments too. We are all on the same side. Our colleagues in the department are facing the same type of thing. But the fact that a PI might believe that all of us should be working and submitting a proposal at 8 p.m. should not be controlling. It's just, that shouldn't be the norm. Once in a while, that might happen. Things happen, and we follow exceptions. But I mean, having it routinely is not proper, and we all need to work on that. Any questions for Kelly? I don't see anything in the chat. Or any question about what I said? Do you need us to remind researchers that that's really what they have to follow? They have to help us help them. If you want, we are happy to work with the Vice Chancellor for Research, to work with the chairs of the departments, for example, to remind them that this is what is needed. Just the fact that people are working at home doesn't mean that they are available 24 hours a day. Okay, thank you very much. Grace from the award side.
Good morning. Okay, I will get to Alyssa's question after I give my announcements. So the first thing is that we have a March 3rd SDPS class on awards and post-award actions. This will be offered remotely via Zoom. So if you want to know more or you need a refresher course on award and post-award actions, please sign up for the March 3rd class. And then I also have a few other just internal process reminders. So our online COI system does not sync with SPO. So we do not get notifications when PIs fill out forms. So when your PI fills out a 700U or a Form 800 or PHS COI, either the PI or the department needs to let the SPO analyst know that it has been completed. That way we can continue to process the award. Otherwise, we're just going to wait until the analyst remembers to check. But if you want your award processed in the most efficient manner, please let us know when the compliance items have been put in place. All right, and then the second item is regarding the protocol certification form. And I see that we have some of our IRB people here. So if they want to chime in, feel free. When we ask for the protocol certification form to be filled out, signed, and returned to us, the most important part is that it certifies congruency between the scope of the project and the scope of the protocol. So when we ask for a protocol certification form for IACUC or IRB, we're not just asking for proof that the IACUC and IRB have been approved. We're actually asking for the congruency statement to be signed. So I'm just reminding you, because there have been some PIs who've returned the protocol protocol approval letter and said, oh, here's my IRB or IACUC approval. And it's like, thank you, okay, but we also need you to fill out this form because of that congruency certification, okay? Okay, and then just one final thing, because I've gotten some questions on this. So the division of labor in terms of forms is that non-disclosure agreements are handled by SPO. Gina Melville does a wonderful job with non-disclosure agreements. Material transfer and data use agreements are handled by Innovation Access. Okay, so please email material transfer and data use agreements to Innovation Access, not SPO. Okay, got that? All right, thanks. Just a quick reminder, because I've gotten some questions on this the last few weeks. Okay, let me look at Alyssa's question. Okay, so in-kind cost share. So cash cost share versus in-kind cost share. So if an award lists a certain amount of cost share, we have to look at what kind is listed, and then we have to have the institutional commitment to meet that cost share. That's part of the award process. So is it money? If it's money, then the department needs to literally have a letter signed by the chair that commits that amount of funding towards that award. If it's in kind, then it can be different, right? It can be equipment. It could be maybe lease on a building. It could be personnel effort. In kind comes in different forms. It could be the cost, contributed materials and supplies, or animal care, or animal resources. So that all has to be kind of listed, and then the cost of each category estimated, and somebody needs to sign off on that. And so mandatory cost share of in-kind on a federal award might be equipment costs dedicated towards the project. It could be animal resources dedicated toward a project. It could be personnel effort. Okay, so you can talk with your PI about what makes sense for that project and sign a letter accordingly.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, okay. So how can we confirm that the 800 or 700U has been completed? The department admin should have access to the online COI system, correct? I'm sorry, I'm not actually sure what you guys see from your end. Yes, you do. Okay. So you should be able to go in and confirm that your PI has completed those forms. And if they do, then email SPO. Oh. Does anybody have the answer to Gwen's question?
What was Gwen's question?
I have access to the COI site, but not to my PIs.
Yeah, same here. I don't necessarily, I can't really see what they see. I can log into the site, but so maybe there's a permission that has to be given or something.
Oh, okay. So Denise, thank you, Denise. Denise is very capably handling our COI site. The PI must make the administrator, give them the role of administrator in the profile. Okay.
So it's in the control of the PI then.
Yeah. And so I would suggest that you ask all the PIs you work with to make you an administrator under them, under their forms. No, the COI system is separate from Cayuse. So
maybe at one point it would get connected, but that's not in near future.
Okay, yeah. So the COI system is okay. It's linked from the OR website to the system, and Denise has very kindly offered to look it up for you as well. Yeah, Gwen, it's not Cayuse, it's a separate system. So it's the same system the PIs would use to fill out their 700 or Form 800s. Okay, I saw another question regarding NIH that seemed important.
NIH, if that's the salary cap, I think that's what the question is about. I did send an email to the listserv on February 11th, the day after the NIH announcement came out. The announcement of NIH again came out on February 10th, and the new salary cap as of January 2nd of this year, it's $203,700. But anyway, it's my email of February 11th to the listserv.
Is that the same thing as the stipend rate?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if they are talking about the salary cap or not.
I think sorry, this is James. I think they're referring to the training grants.
Oh, I see. Okay, so James, then you know the answer.
Well, I just know what they're asking about. I don't know. I don't have any update on that front, though.
I see. Okay, then we have to look into it to see what might be the answer to that.
Okay, I'm sorry. And then there was another question following up on the cost share discussion, which is how is it reflected in accounting reports, FIS or UC Path? Accounting folks, I need
so great. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback off this when it gets to be my turn to share. I've got some stuff maybe I can offer up. So I'll try to fill in those blanks in just a little bit.
Grace, do you have anything else?
I do not. That was all I had.
So you have a couple of other people to talk, but since we are where we are, James, do you want to jump in?
I am happy to jump in. Let me turn my video on so everyone gets the full experience. Hey, good morning, everybody. So, for our CGA, I don't know that we've got that much to update everybody on, but here is a good example of how this forum hopefully is helpful as we're sharing information around. So on the cost share, I did notice a question about equipment, as well as the question about how it shows up in the accounting system. I'm not exactly sure, what I want to share is on our website, we have a good bit of information about cost share. Let me share my screen here. Maybe, there it is. So on the CGA website, so if you go to, well, here, let me just put this in the chat. Oh, it's hiding on a different screen. Okay. All right, so I just threw the link to this page in the chat box. But there's some helpful information. I think Alyssa or whomever had posed the original question about how cost share works. There's the front page talks about our cost share application, which is the mechanism we use for capturing the cost share, the various types of cost share, be it, we get into kind of a semantics type of thing. So whether it's cash, like Grace was mentioning, or in kind or whatever, we still are going to be looking for transactions in the accounting system that you pull into this cost share application. I'm not going to go into the cost share application because that's a whole other thing, but there is a link here for you to get into the application. But there's also some definitions. There are also some definitions out here that are helpful: mandatory versus voluntary, committed. Again, I'm not going to try to go through the whole thing, but just to point out, just to make sure everybody does understand, we are the same allowability types of conditions apply to cost share as they do to the charges, the directly charged expenses on the project, by which I'm really saying you need to have your cost share expenses incurred during the performance period of the specific project. You can't take equipment that you purchased 10 years ago and claim that as cost share against the current project. So there's some explanation there on equipment, so please take a look at that. Generally, you're not going to be charging space because that's generally going to be an F&A type of cost that's already been covered somewhere else. Anyhow, hopefully this, if you haven't seen this page before, please do take a look at it. And now I'm going to see if any questions. Someone is pointing out to me that there are exceptions. Yes, like everything in our world, it depends, and there are exceptions. So I'm trying to provide just the general guidance and general information. There's a question about it different based on in-kind and or can cost be interpreted differently. Yeah, I suppose maybe I would need to understand what that is. Cost share is, expenses on the project, contributed to the project. It's just that they aren't being paid for by the sponsor. They're being paid for by us, by the university. Or to throw another wrinkle, you could have third-party cost share where, I don't know, some entity outside of UC Davis is providing some piece of new equipment for the project, and then you'd be able to claim that as cost share. There are mechanisms in the cost share application that will allow you to capture third-party cost share as well as the internal UC Davis cost share. And again, I can't really go into the whole thing. Is my screen still sharing? Doesn't have that box.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Did I miss any other questions related to cost share? People were pinging me all over the place. Let me see what I. Oops. Okay. All right.
There is another question in the chat, James.
There is.
Yes, if there is an equipment use rate in place, can we use the equipment at the use rate as cost share?
There's an equipment use rate in place. What's an equipment use rate?
I think they mean recharge rate.
A recharge rate. Well, yeah, you could. I mean, right, because you could have that recharge charged directly to the project, in which case it would just be a direct cost on the project, not cost share. Or you could have that recharge expense booked to a departmental account, and then you could capture that as cost share in the cost share application.
And James, would that be similar? Like in my particular example, the PI is saying that like a vehicle rent, like a fleet services vehicle rental for field work is going to be in kind cost share.
Yeah. I mean, it should, and again, without knowing all the absolute specifics, but the question you ask yourself is, would this be allowable if I direct charged it to the project? If the answer is yes, it benefits the project, is applicable, allowable, necessary, whatever those other fun things are that have to be true in order to direct charge an expense to a project, then you should be able to use that expense as a cost share contribution to the project. It's taking all these expenses that are furthering the project and just kind of dividing them up into what's the amount the sponsor is going to pay, and what is the amount that I'll just say UC Davis is going to pay.
And also one thing too, I mean, the way I understand it and makes it easy for me to understand, when you are cost sharing and you are committing to cost share X number of dollars for a project, you have to really understand that that money, it's as if it came from the sponsor. It has all of the restrictions and attributes of the money that came from sponsor. That's how it is. There is no other flexibility. You decide to cost share $1,000 on the project, that's as if the sponsor gave us $1,000.
Right, exactly. That's a good point, Aman. Yeah.
Okay, James, there was another question I saw way back when. It was talking about asking the question regarding stipend, and the question was if the amount is not known for this year, can we use the most recent number?
On the honestly, I'm not an expert on those NIH stipend levels, but that sounds like, I would imagine that would be a lower amount than the new amount that would be announced. So you'd be safe with that. I don't know. Do any of my folks have any insight on the NIH stipend levels? Come on, where are my NIH experts? I know you're out there. You're probably just too shy to speak up.
Okay, I've been Googling frantically and I don't see that the stipend levels have increased. They increased in 2021, but I don't think the stipend levels for like NRSA awards have increased this year.
So we'd probably be safe to go with those then, if that's the most recently available information.
Okay. Anything else, James?
I'm talked out at this point, so I will. No, nothing else.
Should I ask about the next F&A rate? But no.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
Save those questions for another year or two.
Or another 2-3 years. Okay, thank you very much. I know Denise wanted to give us some updates regarding a couple of different trainings. She had problems with the computer, but Denise, I see that you are texting and seems like your microphone is working. Are you available to?
Absolutely. I don't have access to my camera, but I can share my screen, I hope, and I hope you can hear me.
Okay, for those of you who might not know Denise, Denise is the new Associate Vice Chancellor for Research. She started in August, and my office, IRB, and several other offices, and obviously conflict of interest, all of that report to her. Denise, please.
And I didn't actually start in August, just feels like it's been that long. Well, I just wanted to share a quick update on ECOI since there were a couple of questions. So hopefully you can see my screen. This is the quick start guide for your PIs to add an administrator. And I've dropped that link in the chat, and I'll just walk you through it quickly so that you can help your faculty. So when they go into ECOI, choose your profile, and you'll see here it says add administrative contact, and your PI would select that, and then they can do a search for the name and add them. Of course, I can't because I'm not an administrator, and then they can add you. So it's very simple, but your PI has to do it in their profile in the system. I hope that answers questions. The other quick update that I wanted to share this morning is that the PHS COI training changed in the fall. And we sent out email to the research community, and we put it into our newsletters, and it will appear again in the next newsletter. But I just wanted to make certain that all of you as our important partners know that that training has changed. It is now called the UC Ethics and Compliance Briefing for Researchers. The old training no longer exists. So if your PIs have questions about that training, you can direct them here for the information about how to access it, or just tell them to log into the UC Learning Center, type in compliance briefing in the search window, and you'll see it pops up, the UC Ethics and Compliance Briefing for Researchers. And this is the course right here. It takes somewhere between 20 and 45 minutes to complete, depending on, there's a lot of supplemental material in it. So if they click through and review any of the supplemental material, it'll take longer. But if you just run through the required components, it takes about 20 minutes. And that is the new updated training that everyone will be required to complete every 2 years now. Thank you for the opportunity to share that quick update.
No problem. Any questions for Denise?
I'm just going to piggyback off of what Denise said. So when you add the admin, when the PI adds the admin, it should be their department admin, not the SPO admin. Okay, because SPO works with so many PIs, it would not be possible for us to keep track of all of our PIs. So not the SPO analyst.
Well, and the ECOI system won't allow you to add a SPO analyst as an administrative contact to the PI profile.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other questions while Denise is here too? No? Okay, we have another update from Venture Catalyst, Janine. Janine, most people might not be informed what venture capitalist, catalyst is. I keep calling it venture capitalist. Venture catalyst is, if you give an update on that and just a little bit of background, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me here today, and thank you, Grace, for plugging me in. So today, I'd love to just introduce you a little bit to what we do at Venture Catalyst here within the Office of Research, and a couple of ways I would love to tap you and your network with all these amazing researchers on campus for some initiatives that we have coming up. So I'm Janine Elliott. I'm an associate director here at Venture Catalyst, and I actually have just a quick little slideshow with some visuals that introduce Venture Catalyst and a couple of these initiatives that you can potentially get involved with or help us spread the word to relevant PIs. So I'm just going to share screen here. And go from the beginning. There we go. Can you see that screen okay? Okay, great. So this is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. And so, yeah, basically I had mentioned to Grace when I saw her in the office that we have a couple of initiatives going on where we're trying to reach out to as many faculty, PIs, staff, researchers, and so on around some initiatives that we have. And we're trying to do as much of that one-on-one as possible, but we're realizing, you know, there's so much amazing stuff going on campus that we couldn't possibly do it ourselves. So basically the two areas where I would love your help is Venture Catalyst has a proof of concept grant program, and then we also run the Chancellors Innovation Awards, and we're seeking nominations currently. So basically, just for context, as Ahmad was saying, we sit in a part of the Office of Research called Innovation and Technology Commercialization. Our sister department is Innovation Access, who you might interact with on a more frequent basis. And then we sit sort of next to Innovation Access on that path to commercialization as people's research goes from research to the marketplace. And our goal is really to help people optimize for impact and to help fulfill the land grant mission of the university through the spinning up of new ventures that can take that university IP and do great things with it at scale. And so a couple of our programs that we do that and try to help with that process is, among others, offering early stage funding and offering recognition to innovators on campus to help build that culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. And so that's really what I'm going to mention today. So in particular with our proof of concept grant programs, the goal is to help support the translation of basic research with commercial potential by hitting just, you know, one or two really small milestones that could help demonstrate proof of concept and establish market viability, so that either somebody could move, you know, a technology forward over the course of the next couple of years towards a startup, or move it towards some compelling IP that could be moved to innovation access and out into industry. There are a lot of different pathways that can take. And so just in the idea of this particular little graphic that comes from an organization that I used to work with, basically what we're really trying for is this second or third box here, where it's going from the fundamental research into what is a core invention and why might it be valuable to the market, and just helping to move that needle incrementally towards the towards the market and towards scaled up impact. And so these are short projects. They're about a year long. They're $50,000 to $75,000. So I know these are pieces of money that are considerably smaller than what the vast majority of you are dealing with. But the goal here is really just to provide funding that often is sort of pre-SBIR or STTR, if you've come across those programs, to establish some of that fundamental data. The other thing that's really wonderful about these grant programs is that we work with external panels of reviewers, and those reviewers provide feedback and mentorship to all applicants so that their research paths can be optimized for their goals as well. And then this is just a sampling of some of the people that have won grants from our STARE grant program. STARE stands for Science, Translational, and Innovative Research. And what you'll see here is, you know, we've got people from across schools, across disciplines, across levels of professorship or research level. And it becomes a really great opportunity for folks to translate their technologies into those real world applications. And I'm really excited to say that over the past 8 years that we've been doing this, through the contributions from the Office of Research, from the Vice Chancellor of Research, over about $2.5 million have been awarded. And that's actually turned into $147 million in follow-on funding, be that through startup investment or additional research funding. So it's really exciting to see how this can become a lever for developing the research into those applied sort of applications. So the two programs are the Science Translation and Innovation Research Award and the Food Systems Innovation Award. We have an amazing group of partners who have also put up supplemental funding for these different programs and Sidecar Awards. These are just a couple that are listed down here. And that's what really allows for certain winners, for example, of the SCARE Award, to then also get up to $25,000 of matching funding, for example, if they're coming from the School of Medicine or if they're coming from the Biological Sciences or something like that. And then, so the second award that I mentioned was the Food Systems Innovation Award. And that's a really amazing opportunity to specifically interact with venture capitalists and get feedback from the investment community. So my ask to you is, if you're working with innovators and researchers that are working at that applied or translational research stage, who might have commercial or IP potential, it's okay if it's not totally baked yet. We would really love for you to help spread the word, and you can connect them with us directly, and we can tell them more about the program. So I can drop actually both of these links in the chat for you in case you're interested in checking it out. Maybe, here we go. And what's nice on your end is, because this is all within the university, the administrative burden should be almost non-existent. So there's always that. And then secondly, if there's a PI that you've really enjoyed working with, we also have an initiative here called the Chancellors Innovation Awards. And this one is less focused on specific commercialization milestones and pathways, and is more about recognizing innovation generally for social impact. And so the exciting thing about this awards program is we're selecting 2 Innovators of the Year. These can be faculty, staff members, or teams that could include faculty, students, and staff. And what we're really asking for is looking for innovative or entrepreneurial activities that have that measurable societal impact over the course of the last year, or achievements that in the last year could have potential to make strong impact in the future. Because we realize that a lot of this research is a long game. And then nominees can come from all disciplines. And so given the reach that you all have in your networks, I wanted to make you aware of that. And in this case, people cannot self-nominate. So if you want to nominate somebody that you think is doing just really amazing, impactful work, we would really welcome your nomination. And that information can be found through this link here. It was also published, I think, in last week's Dateline. So if you have access to that, that is also available. So I have a feeling I've probably used up as much time as is fair, but I really appreciate the chance to just share those opportunities to recognize the innovators that you're working with, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Janine. A couple of points to clarify. In the past, I have been asked questions whether these proposals come through sponsored programs. The answer is no. These are intramural, they are not extramural awards, so you don't come through sponsored programs for applying for these. The second thing, Janine, as you were talking, I just received email this month's newsletter from your team. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, because there's a lot of good information in there that some people might not know about and might be interested in signing for it.
Yeah, great point. So actually I have that link right here as well. And so we send out a newsletter. We aim to do it monthly, and then every so often, if there's a specific resource or something, we might send out an occasional blast. But hopefully you won't see emails from us more than once or twice a month. And basically our newsletter is a highlight of different innovation and innovators that are around campus that we've worked with through these different types of programs, and what progress they're making. Calls for different types of grants and funding opportunities for people at that innovation and entrepreneurship translational sort of step. And just generally things that are going on in innovation and entrepreneurship on campus or in the broader Sacramento area. So please feel free to sign up. I just dropped that sign up in the chat there, and you know, it's a relatively quick read, and you know, you can always click through the links to get more information or pass along that information to other people. Yeah, so thank you so much. And I dropped my email address into the chat so that if anybody wants to get in touch, please feel free.
Thank you, Janine. Okay, I think that's it for the list of individuals that we had here to talk about their areas. Any questions from anybody for any of us, or any general or specific questions that we can work on? Well, it's 9:15. I don't see any questions. So if we give it another minute to see if anybody comes in. Usually there are questions for James. No? James is waiting.
I've got 10, 9, 8. I think we're good.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, then I guess we can stop the meeting and meet next month. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.